Hey guys, best way to support the show are the links in the description as well as in the pinned comment for Cash App, PayPal, Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, and Locals. The big three revenue streams are YouTube, Rumble, and Spotify. They have in the past fluctuated wildly, and obviously with YouTube, they've outright banned me. If you like the podcast and you want it to keep going, I'd ask that you please look at any of those. You can donate as little as $1 a month. Thousands of you guys watch the show. The show needs about $5,000 a month to run. If you think that giving $2 a month doesn't make a difference, you are wrong. It makes a huge difference. I track every penny, and it really does mean something, not just in a cutesy way. It actually helps the show. I would much rather the show be funded by thousands of y'all than a couple big show or big platforms that could cut me off at any time. So if you would please consider that, if you enjoy the show, please donate to one of those. Thank you so much. And we are recording on Thursday, April 2nd, 2026 at 10:07 a.m. Eastern Time with Mr. Sam Anthony, who's been on the show, I don't know, probably 10 plus times. And we've talked about, essentially in a nutshell, all things corruption from really stemming from Mockingbird Media, but more recently and more familiar to people in my generation and lower is the outright corruption and censorship in the social media apps and how there's really no recourse. And I think that's the biggest thing you've always hit on. It's what I hit on every day when I do my little pre-video thing. I tell people the three big payers of my show, Rumble, Spotify, YouTube. Any one of them can cut me off at any time. And what you want is decentralization. So when 1,000 people give me $1 a month, that's so much more valuable to me than $1,000 a month from Spotify because it has staying power. So I'm going to shut up. Mr. Anthony, introduce yourself and tell everyone what your news is.
My name is Sam Anthony. Your News is a hyper-local news content distribution platform. It would look like any news website, just on steroids because we're in every city in the United States with the ability to target ads by zip code. So what we have is scale. Like all news outlets, we're an aggregator. People that have news will send a press release to the media. It could be a nonprofit like a church having a bake sale, or it could be, a nonprofit having some 5K run. And we can publish all this stuff because we can organize it by subject and geography. So news is either city, it's county, it's market, state, regional, or national. So we can serve somebody's Little League game would be sports news for a city. The high school football game would be sports news for a market. The Monday night football game would be sports news national. It's all in how you distribute the information. We have a social component where the public can interact and share in the narrative locally, along with a monetization model like Rumble and YouTube and Facebook and X, where content creators that are monetized could submit their work freely without censorship and then get paid based on how many viewers read their article, along with a self-service ad platform where advertisers can target their ad around the content that's relevant to their product. Example would be if you sell golf clubs, you want to be around golf related content. Whereas if you sell, pots and pans, you want to be around cooking or, food and wine related content. And then they can drill down to one zip code and everywhere in between. So ultimately, and this, the legacy media is not doing so well. Did you see, was either early last week or the end, 6%, it was CBS announced a layoff of 6% of their work staff. If you don't know, that's 1,100 people, Tommy.
I didn't.
That is not the big news. The big news is, all these big networks have radio, right? CBS radio, Fox radio, it's all nationally syndicated. They're shutting down May 22nd, CBS radio. Okay. Now,
Really?
yeah. Okay. That is huge. Okay. Because the rest are going to follow you. Want to know why? Because of all the people that listen to audio. Okay. Because you can now get it via streaming or you could get it via terrestrial radio. Only 1 in 10 listen to it on the radio. Let me say it again. 1 in 10, which means 90% of the market is streaming. What do you think happens next? It goes to zero and it gets worse. How many people, so for the people who watch news via video, which could be television or like we're doing streaming, 3 in 10 watch cable news. Next is 2, then 1, then none. I've been saying on podcasts, I'm giving them 5 years. I am way off the mark. It's 3, somewhere between year 2 and year 3. And if they're still around, somebody's picking up the tab. It's hemorrhaging money.
Yeah.
because the audience is just leaving. For the most part, some of it could be because they're lying and nobody cares, but for the most part, it's really just the generation that grew up watching cable news is dying. I mean, that's the bulk of it.
As well as picking up the tab. Yeah, the only reason things like that would still be operating is there's a benefit to someone. Somewhere it does make sense in a line item. If this outfit, if this new thing, McDonald's is doing isn't making money, it's clear that McDonald's is still trying it and they're funding it with the sales of their regular, your fries and your Big Mac to see if they can get whatever this new venture working. Like nothing just nothing in the business world just goes on if it's not working. Someone's picking up the tab. And I mean, traditionally, I would say, yeah, I think most recently we saw with COVID, like why in God's name would all these companies censor things about COVID origin and COVID vaccine side effects? Not even talking about the ethics, morals, and whatever. It's just why would they limit the hottest story? Just forget everything else. Why would they limit it? And it's someone somewhere is picking up the tab, or the inverse, they are threatening a tab. And I would imagine the most common is the government going like, all right, YouTube, Google, Facebook, you guys have been, breaking every antitrust monopoly law daily for the last 20 years, and we let that go for occasionally we need you to push this or shut this thing up, which I would imagine is just how it works. Like not even getting tied up in the emotion of it, or it's right or wrong. It is wrong, but whatever. Why would they? If it bleeds, it leads, right? It's so why would they not cover something as huge, someone somewhere? And in this case, it was the government had an incentive, and the government's incentive was obviously through pharmaceuticals. But my point is if it's not making money, you're not seeing the value somewhere. If you don't see it, it's making sense somewhere. So just to speculate wildly, do you think that has to be going on with these legacy media companies? Because they can't possibly, they're not profitable.
Well, of course. I mean, the only thing keeping the network televisions afloat is the pharmaceutical companies. That's it. That's the only thing that's keeping them afloat because their viewership has diminished so much. Look, when Joe Rogan is bigger than every single television network
Combined.
combined, I mean, it's over. I don't know what to do. They're afloat because the pharmaceutical companies are keeping them afloat. But this is only going to last for the next 24 to 36 months. That's my take. And if it lasts longer, remember in the next 2 or 3 years, how many 80-year-olds are not going to be here?
Sure.
A lot. That number is going to drop to the point where viewership is just going to be abysmal. And the money, Tommy, it's common sense. People don't think about it, but the internet has given birth to creators, right? Like you, because you probably would have never got a job at Fox News or CBS or ABC
Absolutely
or
not.
whatever. Okay. I mean, they only have a limited amount of space for people, but the internet through technology, with YouTube is people that have never been in broadcast journalism could all of a sudden become broadcasters. And it's broad. I mean, you could do anything from, I watch people that do golf shows or golf tips to, people that do cooking shows to people that do political. It doesn't matter. Barstool Sports, you ever hear of it?
Hmm.
So it's very broad in scope, but anybody can be a podcaster. And the cream rises to the top. So what happens is all these platforms, do you know how many people are on YouTube? You know how many content creators are active? 61 million. I'll tell you what it is because I looked this stuff up. Rumble has 250,000. And those, not all of them, most of them were not, but the void they filled was YouTube kicking you off.
Hmm.
Okay. And probably 20 or 30,000 other people. And Rumble filled that void. And then they have other people that are just looking for broader distribution. Because if you notice, there's people on YouTube, they're on Rumble, they're on all kinds of platforms trying to broaden their reach. So not all of those were kicked off. But Rumble filled that void, and they've got 250,000 people. Just no different than True Social. When everybody was kicked off of X, True Social filled that void, and they have now 6 million content creators. But you still have the 10,000-pound gorillas, which are Google. You have X, you have Facebook, and those things, and YouTube. Those things aren't going away. But all the money goes to them. Instagram, you'd have to look it up because I never remember how many content creators it has, but it's a freaking lot. It's
Yeah.
in the millions. And so the the platforms have all these people that are promoting their own channel hosted on the platform. And all the people, so if you have 100 million people that have channels and they're all promoting everybody to go there, it drives a lot of traffic, which is then supported by advertisers, right?
Mhm.
Money's going where the people are. So this is where what my platform is it's 20,000 cities rolled up into one, where you can, and with all the different categories, entertainment, sports, business, politics, food and wine, home and garden, faith, soccer, hockey, basketball, it's endless, science and technology. So you could have all these different creators, and just on best guess, you probably could pull off about on average, it's 20,000 cities, 50 people a city, talking a million people. Will they all be active? No, just like the ones on YouTube. You probably, it's going to be the 80-20 rule. But though that amount of people drives a massive audience. And by the way, I got something to share with you, Tommy. So all these platforms, like I'm in the platform business, I'm not in the news business. My job would be to support content creators. And so that's going to be through ad revenue, and it's going to be through, tools like other platforms have, where, like, how you could go on X or YouTube and you could follow somebody.
Mhm.
Okay, so we just completed the follow the author on our site. So that was yesterday. So
Oh
now
yeah.
people could follow you and you build an audience here as well. I mean, to me, that was a critical component that took some time to build, but it's now up and running. So now my next step is we're opening Canada.
Say that again.
I'm opening up another country.
Okay.
Canada is going to be the next place I open.
Oh, sorry. I was taking a sip of water. As soon as I swallowed, I didn't hear what you said. They said you're something kit Canada. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So legacy media is going to be gone. That's the good news. What's going to replace it will be a product like mine, hyperlocal news, that is decentralized, which is what you talked about, right?
Mhm.
Because we live in a world now of centralized news, and everybody's seen the 50 TV stations saying the same thing at the same time from Sinclair Broadcasting. So it's the top down. The good news is the next generation mainstream media is going to be a platform like mine, but it's all going to be decentralized, where news reporters are going to be able to report news freely without any censorship. And the marketplace is going to decide who wins or loses. It's going to be a very good thing for the US and for the world.
In terms of the media companies, their viewership going down and their layoffs, and this is something I know next to nothing about.
Mhm.
What role does AI also play? Let's just say holding all things equal. Let's just say nothing changed in viewership for the next 5 years. I'm torn. When I don't know I guess the last year of AI, I'd look at it and be like, oh, those people are all fucked. You can just get the auto summaries of everything. But the more you look at it, and just kind of where I am is one, I can look at a lot of summaries and be like, well, it's just AI slop, but some people might not care. In general, I do see there is FOMO, like fear of missing out. People do want human on human. Like people are like, how come? Because I've done 2,000 something episodes. They're like, why don't you plug that into an AI? That's enough data to like recreate you, and then you could interview anyone in the world, just like theoretically. I'm like, nobody gives a shit. Like it's that was novel. If no one could do that, that would be novel. If this was 2006, that would be really cool. Tommy interviews Vladimir Putin. But it doesn't matter if anybody can go to any AI and plug in. And if everyone has it, nobody has it. So how does that tie into this? Because I look at it now and I'm like, yeah, no, a lot of summaries are dog shit. And even if they're not dog shit, in general, people do want to see just person on person talking. So do you think AI adds to that layoff? Do you think it removes? Do you think it's neutral?
A lot of people tell me that AI is going to replace the local reporter, not even a remote possibility. And the reason I say that is because artificial intelligence needs to have the content out there for them to be able to build on it and comment.
Yeah, yeah.
It can't walk into the city council meeting or the school board meeting or the high school football game or write a story about the bank robbery unless there's information on the web to
That's a good
retrieve
point.
it. And the only way it's on the web is because the local news reporters, whether it's CBS, ABC, NBC, are reporting that news, and then it can aggregate it and create a content from it. So you're always going to need boots on the ground. But let me tell you the beauty of AI. It's a tool. And so, do you know how, anybody could become a broadcaster on YouTube, even if you didn't go to broadcast journalism school? Well, we've created technology where anybody can become a local news reporter, even if they never went to, broadcast or to journalism school. What AI is going to do, because I'm somebody who can't write well, I write like I speak, but you go to it doesn't matter. You go to an event. It could be, something that's an entertainment story, like, a musician comes to town, or it could be a city council meeting, or it could be the high school football game. You take notes. You put those notes into AI and you tell it to write you a news story. And once the news story is the way you want it, you read it. And once you like it, that's your article. That's what you run with. And that's what AI is going to be used for. As a matter of fact, we even put artificial intelligence into the dashboard for the news reporters, where they can actually access it, plug it in, and create stuff. But it's still human beings doing it.
Yeah, and it's also, and I have to be humble. I have to, this might also be, like the Bill Gates quote from 1999, where he's like, nobody will ever need more than 640 kilobytes of memory. And then there's some other quote, I think it was in Popular Science or something. It's like 1997, and it was like, the internet has peaked. Get out now. Like, so I always have to be like cautious when making claims about a new technology. I'm like, there's a far above 0% chance that in 20 years I look more retarded than normal. That being said, I think there's also just like a huge level of distrust, just in general. You go on Twitter, you see anything. You see a video of this happening, you see a bomb hitting that. The first thing is people is like, is this AI? Is this real? No matter how influential, whether it's, the president, or whether it's a bomb went off in Damascus, or there was an alligator attack in, Mississippi. In general, there's this feel, and I don't know how you get around that distrust of AI, because you could say, well, here's my friend Bob, and Bob is there, and he's reporting on the scene, and well, then is Bob AI? Are you AI? I don't know what that is, but there does seem to be like almost like a chain of custody type trust issue with, where did this go? Who touched this? Like, you know, like cutting drugs, adding baking soda or vitamins to it. Yeah, low level drug dealers do that. That doesn't happen at the cartel level. You and your family's head will be disappearing. There's a chain of custody. There's a chain of custody with nuclear materials. There's chains of, I've interviewed, armored truck drivers. There is so, like, at all moments, chain of custody, video evidence. Nothing just shows up somewhere. Um, I don't even know how you would get around that trust issue with
Oh, I
AI.
already know.
All right.
I already know. Well, it's so I get it because people are skeptical. But here's what's going to end up happening. You have an audience of people that watch you, correct?
Yeah,
And would you say the reason they're loyal and watch you is because they trust you?
sure. Yeah.
Okay. So even if you were to leverage AI to either to produce a content, you're making sure before you put it out that it's valid and people know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's what's going to happen. The next news reporter is going to be your neighbor. It's going to be somebody you know in the community that signs up on our platform. It's you already trust them. Let's say
Okay.
your
Yeah. Okay.
neighbor,
Yeah. I see what you
you,
mean.
you already know Nancy. Nancy and you talk every day. You go, hey Nancy, what's going on? Well, let me tell you what happened. Those assholes at the city council meeting did this to us, and they're talking about raising our tax. And then Nancy goes over and signs up to become a citizen journalist on yourNEWS, and Nancy goes and covers it, and then writes a story and shares it with you. You already know Nancy. She's not full of it. That's where this is all going. So now what happens in a community is you have Nancy that's reporting, and then somebody else is reporting, and you might have just in that one community 50 people reporting on different things, but now it becomes a community.
Hmm.
And you could see other stuff. I mean, nobody's going to lie about entertainment news, right? It's only going to be the political stuff. Nobody's going to lie about the high school football game. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So it's really just the political stuff, but you're going to end up the reason you're going to come to our site is because there's somebody on our site that you like that has shared a story with you and you came. And then from there, you're going to see other local news reporters. And if you like them, you follow them. That's
Yeah.
it.
That's a good. As I was rambling on, my first thought was, well, then the people that follow me, they would go to me to see whatever it is I do. And the counterpoint would be like, all right, well, how do you not know that Tommy's AI? You don't, but that's also something where you do that once and you've irreversibly lost permanent trust from your audience. They might come back to you. Some people do that. But for the same reason why, for better or worse, like I don't censor myself, I don't censor my language, I don't censor anybody I talk to. There's no edits, there's no cuts, which is why people see me just get up and go to the bathroom in the middle. And I've never pushed like, I've had people say like, "Hey Tommy, like, say your muscle came from taking this." I'm like, no, that's dishonest. And I look at it as number one, it's wrong, but number two, I look at it as just like financially. I'm like, I'm gonna lose the trust of an audience that I've put thousands of hours into building. Like, fuck off. Like, there's a cost to that trust. I guess you can really only break that trust once, and you might get people back, but you're never gonna get them 100% back. You're not like, so like yesterday I interviewed Joe Kent, the guy who stepped down from the CIA counterterrorism program over protesting the war in Iran. I've also been interviewing him since 2021. So that was something where everyone now is attacking him. They're going, "Oh, he's just doing this. He's going on the podcast circuit now. He's anti-war." And that's something where I'm able to pull up these interviews and be like, "Hey, here's a timestamp where he's saying the same thing when nobody knew him. He's just a random veteran. He's saying the same thing about and blah blah blah." It would be something that you could, and a stupid content creator would use AI to spoof something. I'm not even saying make summaries or what. I'm not talking about that. Dishonestly spoof something. I think you could do it once, and I don't know. Maybe if your audience is retarded, you could do it all the time. But like, you can only do it once, I think, and then it's lost. So there is that kind of chain. And I mean, and then how do you extrapolate that outside of your town and be like, all right, well, I do trust Tommy. Tommy, is there anyone you trust? You know, yeah, my buddy, real example, Tom Luongo, the older Italian guy does financial shit. I trust him. So if he's putting out something and I'm going to tell you, you can trust him too. Maybe you don't know him directly, but you know me. He has my stamp of approval. It's kind of like there's nothing new under the sun. This is going back to like medieval times where the king would put the wax stamp on it, and that's how you knew it wasn't tampered with. It's got to be something like that. I don't know where I'm going with this, and you're patiently listening, but like it's something like that. I think that's what it will be is chain of custody.
People will listen to you because they trust you, and the moment you lie to them, it's over.
Yeah.
So, you're always going to find people that you trust until you don't. And, people are desperately seeking information, right? I mean, there's still a demand for news. It's just how people consume it has changed. Bringing AI into the mix it changes the dynamics a little, but only for lying. When it
Yeah.
comes to news reporting, AI it can only help you as a tool to write something better than you can.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay. Or maybe give you some charts and graphs if you need them. But other than that, it's got to be you that spits it out. It has to come from a human being.
Yeah, it's a good point. You always see these like shit accounts on Twitter that will be like they'll pull up, you know, some Marvel movie from 2016, like the Hulk fighting, and they'll be like, this cost Marvel, the budget for this movie was $100 million. The CGI department was this. You could theoretically then say this is how much this scene costs, and it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is probably accurate. And I just recreated it using Sora or Grok, and for 30 cents, and like this changes everything. And everyone's like, yeah, but the input was the video from the $100 million budget studio. What the fuck are you talking about? Here's an Iron Man, but it's different. I did this. It's like, but the input is Iron Man. You
Yes.
took the literal, not the idea. You took the frame by frame, the panning up of Iron Man's suit turning on, and you made it your own thing. It's like that was the input. What are you talking about? So that is true. It's the input you can clean it up with AI, but yeah, no, it's I don't think it can. And if it can, then it doesn't matter because if everybody has it, nobody has it. So I mean, I don't know.
It's actually going to be a good thing in our field. I mean, you'll have people use it for nefarious reasons, but for the most part, those people are going to go away because the general public is not that dumb.
Yeah.
There's always the few, but like I said, if you start lying, people are going to figure it out real quick.
In terms of monetization, so like, my show's on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, BitChute, Brighteon. Um, Rumble, Spotify, and YouTube are the only ones that pay. BitChute and Brighteon, awesome. Always good to have more free speech platforms, but I've never made a penny up. My subscriber count also hasn't changed in 5 years. There's no traffic. It's
On Brighteon,
Yeah, I've had 165 followers since 2020. You know, BitChute, I think I'm at 1,000, and I think I maybe have made $1, like cumulatively. Rumble was paying well last year, and then I don't know, around November, they just turned it to a flat rate. So there's no incentive. It doesn't matter what I do. They say you have to have 200 watch hours and stream 30 hours. I've literally gotten 20,000 one month, and I got 100 times the requirement. Nothing changed. I didn't get a penny more. Why in God's name am I gonna bust my balls to do that? YouTube. So all three of those are more valuable to me than BitChute and Brighteon because they actually pay me. Of the payment circle, YouTube is the most valuable because if I put in more work and get more views, the pay is directly correlated to it. So that's what now I'm also not in the same stage I was for people who are just starting out. I'm also 6 years in, 2000 something episodes. So I guess I have different standards. 3 years ago, I was happy just not to be censored. Now I'm like, who's paying me the most? Where does that tie in? Because if I just look at it from my own incentive now, it's like, well, where can I make money? Where can I make the most money? And that's just kind of, and I can only imagine if that's where I am, and I'm not even making that much off of this podcast, that I would have to assume that attitude does not change going up from here for channels bigger than mine. I would imagine that's what it all boils down to, which is what all business and work boils down to. But how does that
Mhm.
tie into your news?
Well, the void that I fill is the collapse of legacy media. Rumble filled the void for YouTube. So the content creators that do the video content, I'm not filling a void there. Do I have them? Yeah, a few hundred of them, right? Most of my content creators are written news, right? And it could be anything from a PR firm, nonprofits, that have, event like, church having a bake sale, to the content creators that are actually producing news. Um, the the monetization we have is all based on how many people read your story, the end, or watch your video. And it pulls the ads around the content. The real money is in the local ads, not in the national ads. Have we ever had this conversation?
Mm-mm. Not that I
Okay,
remember.
so I'm gonna share this with you. You only can put so many articles around a piece of content, and for this conversation, let's say it's 10 for web. It's less for mobile, but let's say it's 10 for web. And my traffic is 50-50. I had 1.4 million, a little more than 1.4 million visitors last month, right? Not uniques, just 1.4 million total visits to the site. And 50% of them were on mobile, which means the web has 50%. So you could take 10 ads around a story. If they're national ads are a penny. So when the page gets clicked, if there's 10 ads around that story, the page produced a dime. Local ads, hyper local, are a dime, which means when the page gets clicked, the page produces $1. It's literally 10 times the money. So in one example, if I had 100 million page views, one made $1 million, or one made 10 million, and one made 100 million. Make sense?
Hmm.
Or one made 10 million, one made 1 million, one made 10 million. Sorry about that. So if you have 100 million page views and you're making a dime, I'm sorry, you're making $1 per click. You made $100 million
Sure.
versus $10 million. Well, if I'm paying out 20% to the content creator, then in one case I paid out 2 million, and in another case I paid out 20 million.
Hmm.
The money's in the local, not in the national. But nobody could call Joe's Pizza and sell them an ad.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to call Patriot Mobile and get,
Yeah.
a grand or two a month for a national ad buy.
Yeah.
But Joe's Pizza is going to go, this is great. Let me put in $20, right?
Yeah.
So it really becomes a marketing campaign to attract the customers. And there's got to be some incentive, maybe, I'll give you, if you're your first time ad buy, you get matched in dollars. So if you put in $100, you get an additional 100. That would attract people. And then as you start expanding and growing your customer base, it'll start, you'll start attracting more content creators, more it all goes together. So like any platform, Tommy, you need the content creators, which is going to bring the audience. And then the audience is going to attract the ad revenue. So it's the chicken and the egg.
Yeah.
But the money's in the local. It's not in the national. So I would rather have 2 million people paying me $20 a month than 200 people paying me 5 grand a month.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and yeah,
It's your analogy with the 1,000 people paying you $1.
yeah. And that's kind of, I wouldn't say, I would just call it kind of a factual thing I've learned. I was going to say sad or disappointing, but it's stupid to attach emotion to it.
Hmm.
Man, I've really found that like there is no secret. It's just more eyes, more views, it's just you can. There's no short. There are shortcuts, but those are the shortcuts that will destroy you. A shortcut being,
Mm-hmm.
you could put out something salacious or a lie or fake or, do an interview and do an ambush interview, but then you ruin your reputation forever. Man, I've really found that there is no short. It's just
Hard work.
it's just the eternal slog. And that's kind of what I found. Not that this is really related, but that's just what I found is just there is no shortcut. It's just, I don't know. You just have to keep going. Have to outlet. I guess that is kind of the silver lining is it's not something like based in physics. Like, it doesn't matter if you have the best rocket against everyone else. If your rocket still can't handle the pressures of, breaking the sound barrier, it doesn't matter if you received the gold medal. Doesn't care. It just won't work. It's physics.
Mm-hmm.
Versus this is much more like sports, where you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be better than the next best guy. And that's kind of what I found with this is a lot of it's just kind of the waiting game. Like that's how they said ancient humans hunted like
Yeah.
huge mammals. They would just they would just chase them for weeks. They would just walk and chase them until they died. That's kind of what I found from this is like you just keep going. People will eventually fold. And how do you keep going? Well, you have to make money and there has to be an incentive to keep going. That's why I was bringing up money with your news is there has to be that magnet that is pulling you forward because otherwise like you will just implode.
Tommy, well, first of all, to your point, it's all hard work, but then a little bit of luck too.
That
So
too.
the example would be like if there's anything that proves my model of citizen journalists, it's Nick Shirley, right?
Sure, yeah.
How old is he? 22, 23 years
Yeah,
old, right?
just
And
hit it.
here's a kid with a phone, never went to journalism school. He didn't work for the local newspaper or any radio or TV station and breaks a massive story, right? Did he know he was stumbling into this? No. I mean, he probably just went there and goes, why do I just smell BS here? And starts looking around. And next thing you know, he's at the White House. He's giving speeches. I think he was at CPAC, wasn't he? Right? Giving speeches. This is just a kid. So now he's got millions of followers. But the point is, I have 5,800 content creators right now. Sounds like a lot because it is. But when you think of the scale of what I'm doing, it's not even, there's 20,000 cities. So it's not even one person a city. I mean, it's minuscule in scope. But as we scale and get bigger, my guess is, when you get to that 25, 30,000 range, this thing is going to start to take on a life of its own. By the time you get to 50,000, it's going to change the dynamics and everything that we're doing, because now you'll become a force to be reckoned with because the traffic will be through the roof. Let me tell you an interesting story. If you look up, and it changes from time to time, but Rumble's a public company. So, Rumble had a market cap. I've seen it as high as 4 billion. It normally hangs like before Christmas, it was 3 billion and it's dropped below 2 billion right now. And I'm guessing somebody told me they're having some internal problems. I have no idea if that's true or not. But maybe it's they're hemorrhaging a lot of money. That I don't know. But their market cap is roughly around $2 billion right now. Their content creators is 250,000. They have 250,000 channels, is what they call them. And last month, I saw on the internet that they had, because I did the search, it said 52 million visits. And the interesting part is, I'm basically 50 times less than them. If I have 5,000 and they have
Sure.
250,000, and I had a million. So it's like the traffic coincides. So by the time I get 6 times bigger, I should have 6 times more traffic.
How does this compare to something like Substack? Because you're just doing written.
Well, no, we do audio, video, and print, but the stuff on Substack is different. I mean, the bank robbery is not really a Substack article. I mean, that's local news.
Sure.
The stuff that I do is not stuff Substack content. It doesn't mean they can't be put in two different places, and there's no exclusivity with our content creators. But the platform we have is for the city council meeting, a high school football game, the bank robbery. It could be faith-based stuff. It's local news, right? It's not really Substack stuff. It's people that people want to pay for.
I don't use Substack. I
Well,
know it
well,
exists. I don't know what that's what it is like doing research or exclusive.
yeah, it's somebody that could have great content that puts it behind a Substack wall that builds an audience, and they're paying 5 or 6 or $20 a month for their content, right? But nobody's going to pay any money for the high school football game.
No.
That's already been proven.
Gotcha.
Okay, so the content that I'm carrying, nobody on planet Earth would ever pay for. So how are these reporters going to make any money off of it? It's got to be through some kind of ad sharing revenue stream. And that comes from the local advertisers who could say, I'm going to buy an ad and I want to target it around people reading this high school sports because that's the people I want coming in my store and eating a meal, right? And a portion of that ad revenue, they're actually funding the local people that are producing the stories to do it because that money goes to them.
Hmm.
Make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah. Well, it's like, people will be I look at like the ads on the like I always people always respond, there's too many ads in your YouTube or Spotify videos. I don't control how many there are. It's either monetized or it's not. And they don't care about smaller channels like mine. And they're like, I don't like who I don't know even who is advertising. Like it depends on where you are. What like if it's IKEA or it's McDonald's or it's Goodyear,
Mhm.
like that's where all this stuff comes from. And then furthermore, I always tell people that I'm like, unless you're forking up like $5 a month, like shut the fuck up. It's 2,000 plus episodes for free. And if you don't want to pay for it and you want the show to keep going and the people I have on and blah blah blah, well then you have to accept that there's going to be ads every 5, 10 minutes and it's going to be for, Burger King. But that's kind of just another hard truth I found is like you can't you can't be the punk garage band. Fuck, it's like, do you want the show to keep going or not? It runs on money. It takes time to do, and you can't do that time at work. So do you like the
Yeah.
show? The show has to be paid. It's by Nike. I whatever, and I guess that's I don't know if I'm becoming more cynical as this. I wouldn't say cynical, but I guess more just realistic. It's
Somebody has to pay for it. Otherwise, you got to get a different occupation, right?
yeah,
And at least like what you're talking about by Nike or, any of these big Home Depot, these are all, national brands.
yeah,
And, people don't really care about that. But the local people can advertise with us.
yeah,
So it attracts a local. Joe's Pizza is never going to advertise on Rumble. It's never
yeah,
going to advertise on YouTube. Why am I going to create a video for Joe's Pizza? I mean, it's not worth it.
yeah.
But you could have AI create an ad for you in seconds that is free, that you could then run an ad around a specific type of content, and you could pay $10 and you could buy $10 worth of impressions.
And then I would look at like I've tried to run ads on shows on YouTube, and no matter what, they just won't let. They always say like violates this, that, which is weird because they let me back on and they're paying me. So it's not even like it's 2020 anymore. So I don't understand that. I've ran one ad I think on Twitter, and it got the impressions that it guaranteed, but it did nothing. I don't think it even correlated to like click through rate. So that's like my own cynicism, just paying for ads. Like I've thrown $20 or $100 at an ad before, and really never gotten anything out of it. I, I don't know. It's all I don't know. It's all resulting in me kind of just being a little more cold, a little more of a cold approach to this stuff. Is is it making money? How much is it making? How much does it affect the quality? You know. Um, but you also don't get that bargaining power when you're smaller and first starting out. You do have to take it. So I don't know. Maybe that's where it ties into the local is somebody who's 22 and doesn't get lucky would have to look at something like that to fund it.
It's the way it's got to work. Otherwise, there is no business. Why would somebody be taking their time to go cover the high school football game if there's no way of making a nickel on it ever?
Yeah.
So there's always going to be revenue models that are tied to advertising. It's the only way to support it. Um, and somebody like you should not be focused on money. You should be focused on producing better content. But the way the world works today is you have platforms and you have to figure out how to make money yourself. It's
Yeah.
it's the opposite of the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, no, you're preaching to the choir where it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm doing a show and then it's also like I'm emailing, yeah, Patriot Mobile and I'm like, here's my show. Here's will you sponsor? I don't even know how to go about this. I don't even know like do I wear a shirt? Do you want me to
Yeah.
wear it? Like I'll put the thing in the yeah, no, and it's like, well, you should hire somebody for that. Well, I don't have any yeah, I need sponsors because I don't have money. If I had money, I'd hire somebody to do it's a circuit. So and I know there are companies that, promise the like, hey, we'll take care of the advertising side of that. I've used two over the last 3 years, and they both did nothing but cost me a lot of money. Um, yeah, it's I don't know. I get maybe that's why YouTube and Spotify. So Spotify is another one where it's directly correlated to the amount of work I put in. It makes a fraction of what YouTube pays me, but it too is correlated to if I do better episodes and more frequent episodes, the payment goes up. It's not much, but I would say in terms of percentages, it and YouTube are the same as the percent meritocracy feedback. Um, and those are the ones that I don't have to worry about I just monetize yes or no, click yes or no, and it's
YouTube YouTube had 2.7 billion visitors last month. They
yeah,
have all the tech and all the money and all the
yeah,
content creators.
yeah,
And that's what's really difficult to compete with. So
yeah.
when you were kicked off, you were like, crap,
There's
you
yeah,
know, what do I do now? And then companies like Rumble are trying to step in and fill that void, but they don't have the resources that YouTube has.
yeah,
YouTube has, I mean, look at the difference. One had almost 3 billion people and one had 50 million.
yeah. The last time,
Percentage wise, I mean, you're a gnat on an elephant's ass. And
yeah, when they first told me I could come back on last October, my initial thought was like, "Fuck you," I got, but my dad was here, and my dad was in sales his whole life, and he was like, don't let your money get angry." He was like, my dad, his work had nothing to do with digital. And he was like,
mhm.
"What are how many people use YouTube? How many people use Rumble?" So I looked it up, and that's when I learned the term, the MAUs, the monthly active users. And at the time, last October, it's like 6 months ago, Rumble that month was at 78 million, and YouTube was at, yeah, 2.33 billion.
There you go.
And he was like, "Why are you getting mad?" And I was like, "That's a good point. Like, I'll always remember what YouTube did, and I'll always understand that that can happen at any time. But since coming back on YouTube, they have paid me more in 6 months than Rumble has in 6 years. More than Rumble and Spotify have combined in 6 years. So yeah, that's it. But then it's like, all right, well then how do you compete with it when something like 2020, 2021 happens, which isn't a theoretical, it's something we actually saw. What happens when all the ban hammers come down, clearly government collusion. What happens? You have to go to some place like Rumble. And that's where I do have like some sympathy or empathy for Rumble is because I see myself in that. It's like you're new and you can't do the same. You don't operate the same as the trillion-dollar corporation that is established, and they're building up the walls and the moats and destroying the, or not destroying, they're erecting the barriers to entry. When you're more of a up and coming, it's like Wolf of Wall Street. It's like you have to make noise. That's why you're doing all this stupid shit. And so I have some like sympathy for Rumble in that yeah, they had to throw a ton of money at Steve Bannon, Don Jr., Russell Brand, Tim Pool, regardless of what you think, love or hate them. Like you do have to do that, and I
There's a
get
draw.
that. Yeah, you have to do something wild. You can't just do your vanilla stuff because your vanilla stuff's on YouTube.
Hmm.
But that's it. Seems like Rumble's floundering right now, or I don't know. But yeah, there does seem to be a categorically different mindset to once you are the established thing versus once you are the up and comer. It's not multiple established things you could say are probably a gradation of the same behavior. Multiple up and coming things are probably a gradation of the same behavior. But once you move from one category to the other, I think it's not just a scaling up of the behavior changes entirely. The operation changes entirely to maintenance to you want to be that just calm blue chip stock. And I guess you would be the former. You would be in the your news is the up and coming, throwing haymakers at people. Is that at all accurate? I don't know where I'm going with this.
Well, your news, there's no YouTube in my space. That's the
Got
issue,
it.
right? There's no Facebook. There's no, the perfect example would be X. X has 600 million users and True Social has 6 million. So literally 1%.
Yeah.
And 100% of True Social's users have an X account. Who do you think controls the microblogging market? And
Yeah.
there you go. This
Yeah.
is why Donald Trump flipped and went to cryptocurrency. Remember, it was DLJ Media, Donald
Yeah.
Trump Media, and now it isn't anymore.
Yeah.
Now they're into crypto. It's because that whole market was annihilated because nobody saw Elon Musk buying
Fine.
Twitter. And that's what screwed it up. So with YouTube, the only reason Rumble exists is because YouTube allows it.
100%. I think you and I talked about that last time.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
It's and you look at all the money and where it went, and I like, platforms like Mike Lindell,
Sure.
platforms
Same.
like
Yeah.
Patriot TV, I mean, Brighteon. I mean, but these things, I'll give you an example. Rumble, YouTube has the 61 million channels. YouTube has 250,000 channels. That's now how many people are viewing it, right? Like you said, there were 70 million that one
Yeah.
month. Last month was 52 million. So, and then you have Lindell TV, which has, I believe, 9 content creators, last I checked, which
Yeah.
was like 4 months ago. And all of them are on Rumble. And then you have Patriot TV, which at the time, which was like 6 months ago, had 19, and all of them are on Rumble. So I have almost 6,000
Yeah.
content creators, and I'm nothing, and they have 9. Okay. And so what
Yeah.
I'm saying is, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah. No, that's
Uh,
no.
You need you need to have a million content creators, right? So the beauty is, as we spoke about, the content I carry, nobody's ever going to pay for. So it's going to be worthless on, that website you were talking about, where content creators could put their stuff up
Yeah.
behind a paywall. It's all my stuff is local news, and that stuff has got to be supported by local advertisers. So this is why the opportunity for me, like when we have another conversation, we're going to be having a conversation, and I'm going to have 20,000 content creators, and we're going to be having another conversation, and I have 50,000. The platforms, all platforms, Tommy, are valued based on how many content creators they have. All you do is take the market cap of the company and divide the user base into them, and that'll tell you what they're worth. Ours would be similar to Rumble or YouTube because all my content creators are influencers like you. You're an influencer. So the market value for those is roughly 10,000 per content creator. So watch what happens when I hit 100,000 content creators. You'll literally have $1 billion market cap. That's the cool part.
And
What were
with
you going to
that,
say?
we got to put a pin in it. I have another show. I'm an idiot.
Can I talk about just the equity crowdfund?
Absolutely plug it.
Yeah, no, no. So, we're always looking for more people that want to become citizen journalists. If you go to yournews.com, at the bottom of the page, it says become a citizen journalist. You could fill out the application there. And once approved, you'll get some notification on how to use your dashboard. The second thing is we're doing an equity crowdfund where people could buy stock in this. It's pre-IPO. I'm guessing it'll take roughly 24 months before we get it public. I want to do it once we get past 50,000 content creators. And that offering is ending in 30 days. On April 30th, there'll be a new one at a higher number. And I'm actually in talks with two people about buying whatever's left.
Got it.
That's it.
Make sure you text me those links just so I have them back. Just I think I have them, but let me put them in
And
there.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. I have to run. I'm running way
Okay,
behind.
bud.
Appreciate you. All
Good
right,
to see you.
Sam, you as well, buddy. Thank you so much for coming on, guys.